Hey guys, today we are going to learn what is PCOS. This is Doctor Who, and this video will help NEET PG aspirants. What is PCOS? It is polycystic ovarian syndrome, also called PCOD, also known as Steen-Leventhal syndrome. What is the pathology? There is excessive production of androgens from the ovary, exactly to say thecal cells of the ovary. But usually these androgen levels will remain less than 200 nanograms. What happens to these androgens is this will get converted into estrogen, that is E1. The normal estrogen in our body is E2, which is produced by ovary. This conversion helped by aromatase enzyme happens in the adipose tissue. This leads to increased levels of estrogen E1. Normal E2 to E1 ratio is usually 2:1, but in PCOS it is E2 to E1 ratio is 1:2, that is reversed. This raised estrogen levels leads to negative feedback on the FSH. This negative feedback leads to increased release of FSH. This also gives positive feedback to LH. This estrogen peak leads to increased stimulation of LH release, leading to increased LH levels in the body. See, raised estrogen levels also leads to increased risk of estrogen dependent tumors, that is endometrial hyperplasia, endometrial cancer, estrogen related breast cancers. There is also increased risk of ovarian tumors, but it is always said query ovarian tumors because since the estrogen levels is raised, there can be ovarian tumor, but as well there is decreased ovulation from the ovary. Since we know increased ovulation is responsible for ovarian cancer, we can say there is also decreased risk of ovarian cancer as well. So it is always a query. How to test for the FSH to LH ratio is we usually check day 2 to day 4 of the menstrual cycle. Normally FSH is less than LH. Raised LH levels. LH is raised. This leads to absent LH surge because ovulation depends on the LH surge and not the raised LH level throughout the cycle. We can anticipate an ovulation. These raised LH will cause thecal cell hypertrophy in the ovary. These thecal cells obviously releases androgens. So there is raised androgen levels leading to androgen related side effects. So what can we anticipate due to anovulation is one is the cycles will become irregular, progesterone levels will be decreased, and because there is no ovulation there is infertility. So again reduced progesterone levels, and multiple follicles remain in the ovary and they don't ovulate. What happens because of reduced or absent progesterone levels is one, the endometrium is continuously under the influence of estrogen and there is absent progesterone. So there is no secretory phase. So continuous proliferative stage leads to proliferation and then breakthrough bleeds, leading to irregular and painless cycles. The pain during menses is due to progesterone, which is responsible for prostaglandin F2 alpha release. So painless cycles will be there. Coming to anti-Mullerian hormone released by the granulosa cells on the small follicles of the ovary, which is raised in PCOS. What happens to glucose levels? We all know that the glucose levels, there is hyperglycemia in PCOS, which is due to increased insulin resistance. But the insulin level as such is always raised, leading to more than 25 international units of serum insulin levels. This usually manifests as acanthosis nigricans, which is hyperpigmentation seen in axilla and the nape of the neck. Usually diagnosed by 75-gram GTT, that is glucose tolerance test, which is recommended by ACOG guidelines. What is the criteria on which PCOS diagnosis depends on? That is Rotterdam criteria. This Rotterdam criteria has three components. One is hyperandrogenism, the other one is ovulatory dysfunction, the third one is USG evidence of PCOS in the ovary. The hyperandrogenism clinically manifests as hirsutism, and biochemically we can check it as raised androgen levels. The second component is ovulatory dysfunction, as I mentioned before. This ovulatory dysfunction manifests as anovulation, leading to amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea. There will be irregular cycles. These irregular cycles are because of reduced progesterone levels. This irregular cycle manifests as menorrhagia or menometrorrhagia, that is breakthrough. There is a prolonged period of bleed, excessive bleed during menstrual period, and also there is bleed in between two cycles, that is metrorrhagia. So this we can define as menometrorrhagia. The third component of the Rotterdam criteria is USG evidence of PCOS. We all know that there will be necklace pattern which is classically described in PCOS, but appearance of this necklace pattern is not included in diagnostic criteria. So what all is included? So USG evidence of PCOS, there is more or equal to 12 follicles in the ovary, and each follicle will be between 2 to 9 mm in size, and volume of the ovary is more than 10 ml. 2 out of the 3 of these criteria is needed for diagnosis of PCOS. Coming to the syndromes associated, there is Hayran syndrome. Hayran syndrome means hyperandrogenism, insulin resistance, and acanthosis nigricans. Then comes the metabolic X syndrome. Metabolic X syndrome, for diagnosis, we need 3 out of the 5 of the following components. One is abdominal obesity, more than 88 centimeter of the waist circumference, triacylglycerols more than 150 mg per dl, BP more than 130 by 85 mmHg, HDL less than 50 mg per dl. We have to note that LDL is not a component of metabolic X syndrome, and there is glucose intolerance, that is FBS between 110 and 126, PPBS between 140 and 200. What are the complications of PCOS? There are short-term complications as well as long-term complications. If we think of the short-term complications, the number one is infertility. That is the most important and bothersome thing patient comes to us with. The other one is hirsutism. Hirsutism is excessive growth of unwanted hair in the body, usually on the mustache area, beard area. And the third component is irregular cycles. The long-term complications is, we all know that excess estrogen levels is responsible for abnormal coagulation profile, which leads to heart disease. The other one is obviously insulin resistance leading to diabetes. There is also increased risk of obesity. The other complications or excessive estrogen levels can lead to endometrial cancer, breast cancer, and ovarian cancer. What about osteoporosis? We don't see osteoporosis because there is estrogen in the body, no osteoporosis. How do we manage PCOS? Coming to complication wise management, one is infertility. For infertility, there is anovulation. So, to combat anovulation, we need the patient to ovulate. So, we use ovulation induction drugs. Drug of choice is usually letrozole more than clomiphene citrate. Drug of choice in PCOS plus raised prolactin levels is clomiphene citrate plus bromocriptine. For second line management, we can use laparoscopic drilling, HMG, that is human menopausal gonadotropin, that is FSH plus LH, that is 75 microgram FSH and 75 microgram LH. We can also use pulsatile GnRH agonist. Most important thing we suggest is to lose weight in PCOS patients. Weight loss is one of the most important thing which will usually regularize the cycle, decrease hirsutism, also causes ovulation. So if the young patient presents with PCOS, the first suggestion is weight loss. We will prescribe metformin for insulin resistance. So for irregular cycles, the drug of choice is OCPs, that is oral contraceptive pills containing estrogen and progesterone. For hirsutisms, OCPs, but the progesterone in this OCP should be third or fourth generation, because first and second generation OCPs has first and second generation progesterone containing OCPs as androgen effects as well. For insulin resistance, drug of choice is metformin. So now if we compare clomiphene citrate versus letrozole, we all know that clomiphene citrate is a selective estrogen receptor modulator and letrozole is an aromatase inhibitor. So clomiphene citrate, what it does is it inhibits estrogen receptors in pituitary, leading to FSH release, leading to follicles development. But clomiphene citrate acts as estrogen antagonist in uterus. So there will be thin endometrium and thick cervical mucus, not favorable for implantation and sperm penetration. But in letrozole has a benefit, that is there will be thick endometrium and thin cervical mucus, which is very good for sperm penetration, and also there will be better probability of implantation, leading to better results seen in letrozole. That is the reason why letrozole is considered drug of choice nowadays. So which is better for implantation? It is letrozole. I have covered all the important points which are needed for NEET PG exam, and as well as few points which can fetch you marks if a 5-mark question is asked about PCOS in your university exams. I'll be doing similar small topics in a condensed manner, so you'll have authentic information and it will be easier for revision as well. Please do subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon for more information and more topics. Please do suggest the videos which you want about the topics in the comment section. Please do like the video and subscribe and hit the bell icon for further notifications. Thank you so much.